It is time to revisit the waters in Reanimal. The brook horse wasn't the only creature that is a threat to us when traveling the waters. Lurking underneath are packs of boomers waiting for the right time to strike and to overwhelm you with numbers. We'll be taking a closer look at these bloated corpses and observe the sightings and reactions and the in-game model. As always, feel free to share your thoughts and theories on the creature as well, and if you enjoy this type of content, please consider leaving a like and a comment. Our sightings of the boomers happen throughout the sniffer sections of the game. The corpses that the sniffer crawls in and out of are the same bloated corpses. We even see the boomers getting drained out by the sniffer, and some live ones are imprisoned in the next room. Skipping further into the game, we'll find boomers again in the waters of the flooded supermarket. At first they observe from a distance, but then some of them begin to chase our group. We escape the supermarket and pass 2 mines, which the boomers triggered once we escape. The explosion destroys the exit from the supermarket, giving us a moment to breathe. We see a boomer resting on top of the car, but he doesn't seem to react towards us. We find a second one resting as well, but on top of a mine in front of the hotel entrance. Eventually, we find the harpoons and make our way back to destroy the mine in front of the hotel entrance. The boomers begin to rise up from the waters and will frantically swim towards us once we get close enough, but the harpoons made quick work of them. Once we made it back to the hotel entrance, we triggered the mine which obliterated the boomer resting on top. Entering the hotel, we can see a boomer resting on a chair. Going further in, we can watch as a group of boomers spill out of the elevator at the end of the hall, but only one of those boomers will swim towards us. More boomers waited for us to get close enough before swimming at us, but we were able to use the harpoons on them. Eventually, we ended up in a dining hall where we can find many boomers sitting at the table and stuffing their faces. We slowly proceeded through while throwing harpoons out at them. The ones at the table don't seem to care about us, but we threw a harpoon at them just in case. We don't see the boomers again until we reach the flooded highway section. In these waters are more boomers waiting for us. We encountered more of them falling off the bridge. Some will start to swim towards us, but we slowly proceeded forward and used the harpoons on them. A few more are found before we entered the tunnel. Once we blew up the mine in front of the tunnel, more boomers started swimming towards us. As we moved through the tunnel, boomers will break out of the car windows around us, but they don't pursue us. Suddenly, more boomers crash out of the school bus. Many of them sank into the water, while a couple of them tried to swim towards us. We eventually reached the end of the tunnel, which marks the last of the boomers that we'll see in the Reanimal game. Interactions with the boomers are quite limited. Most of the time, they are just watching us from a distance and would move away once we get close enough. Here in the supermarket, we see our first sight of the boomers in the waters. Once close enough, this boomer will begin to turn towards us, and then he will proceed to sink down into the waters. It is kind of funny to see them sink into the void. Here we can see another one in the same area. He has a lower resolution texture, but once we get close enough, he does a surprising dash the other way. Here is the same scene at a different angle, where I slowed the game down a bit so we can see him move away. The way he dashes seems very silly. Further into the supermarket, we can see more boomers. 2 are scavenging through old freezers while one is just laying there on the wall. The one at the lighted freezer will drink milk once we get close enough, then dive underneath. The other boomers in this room will sink into the waters once we get close enough. These guys do some lovely poses while sinking into the waters. The next room is such a much larger one where we can find many boomers scattered throughout. This boomer I never noticed, but he is standing on top of the shelves towards the door where we would come from. There are many other boomers checking the shelves for foods to stuff their faces into. This one seems to do an animation of him crawling into the waters. I also wanted to point out this boomer, who has certainly positioned himself in an interesting way. But as we can see, the boomers seem to like to hang out in packs to scavenge for food, and we'll soon see them hunt. Further in the room, we can see an interesting sight. A blob of boomers are spilling out of this ventilation shaft. The boomers don't seem that athletic, but they somehow managed to stuff themselves higher up. I'm very curious as to how this occurred. Well, once we enter the large room, the boomers at the top of the shelf will sink down and disappear. The other boomers will also notice us, and we see as they sink into the water and will swim towards us. Under the water, they seem to just glide underneath. Staying where we are, one of the boomers will latch onto our boat and will start to grow large boils. I added some light so we can see it in a better lighting. The explosion causes our characters to fly off the boat, assuming we are left to be eaten by the rest of the boomers. Here is the scene again without pausing. So during this scene, we are expected to get away from the boomers who are swimming underneath the waters. While we move forward in the scene, we can see the boomers squished into the vents start to fall out, but only rise up from the waters to chase us. So there isn't much we can do with the boomers during this section but escape. So once we get close enough to the mines, the boomers will actually despawn into the water. Once we pass the doors, the mines will explode. Apparently, you aren't guaranteed safe once you pass the doors. If you stay near the door you exited out of, the rubble from the mine explosion will destroy your boat, which is unexpected considering how there are many parts of the game that forces my character into safety after a chase. Once we leave the supermarket safely, we can find more boomers just laying throughout the next section. One is laying on a car but isn't going to pursue us. Another boomer decides to rest on top of a mine, and under the water, we find more boomers hiding from us. They will stay there until we progress further into the game. So once we grab the harpoons, we can see that the boomers are still under the water. But once we destroy the first mine with the harpoon, we can see the boomers rise up to the surface. Once we get close enough, the boomers will begin to swim towards us. I slowed the game down so we can see him start to swim and get hit by our harpoon. We can observe as the waters go red, and shortly after, the boomers will begin to sink down into the water before disappearing. I tried throwing harpoons at the idle boomer on the car, but got no response. Before reaching the mine in front of the hotel, we can see that the two other boomers also rose up to the surface. There isn't any variation on how the boomers are hit with the harpoons. They all have the same animation for it. Now let us destroy this mine with the boomer on top, and watch as there is just nothing left of him. Entering the hotel, we can find a couple more boomers in the lobby. One is laid out against the left wall, and another is sitting on a chair with a seagull on top of his head. Once we get close enough, the seagull will fly off. I threw some harpoons at the one on the chair, but there wasn't any reaction. Going further in, we can find one boomer floating in the water waiting for us. The next encounter with them is after we hear a large rumble. We can go into free cam and then watch how it looks inside the elevator. As we can see, a blob of them spawn and will start to fall out of the elevator. The game will spawn an active boomer within the splashes of one of the ones falling out of the elevator. Peeking into the next room, we can see the boomer idle on top of another one, and the next room over, we will have a boomer just vibing on a tub. The one that we see under the water will be the one that will attempt to swim towards us. When we get close to the first one, he will sink into the ground before the floating boomer will lift his head up and become active. The boomer in the tub will fall out and then despawn. The one floating right in front of it will become active as well. Next, we find a dining hall with many boomers floating in the water and others seated at the tables, stuffing their faces with spoiled old food. When we enter the room, the boomers floated nearby will swim towards us. The ones sitting at the table will pay no attention to us. I tried ramming my boat at them for a response, but I got nothing from them. The only thing we can do with them is throw a harpoon at them. When we do, the boomers will stand up in pain before falling over onto the table. The other seated boomers in the room will do the same animation as well. During this section with the giant cannon, we can find a tunnel in the surrounding area which will lead us to a secret in the game. But there is actually a single boomer just waiting for us near the end of the tunnel. He's the only one there, and I guess he's there just to keep us on our toes. The next time we see the boomers is in the flooded highway section. It is essentially more of the same of what we find in the hotel. Boomers are floating in the waters ahead of us, and we need to throw harpoons at them. There are boomers who are standing at the top of the higher level highways. Once we get close enough, we can watch the boomers fall off the bridge. This one will land on top of the car. Another one falls directly into the water, and a third one looks to fall into a pile of rubble. For some reason, the fourth one up on the bridge weirdly just curls himself into the ground. After clearing out the boomers ahead, we approach a tunnel with two mines blocking the way. Before we blow up the mine, we can see two boomers floating in the waters ahead. We can also take a peek in the cars to see boomers curled up inside with the bloody explosion effect on standby. We can also take a closer look at the bus where we find another blob of boomers. As our boat gets close to the car, the boomers we took a peek at earlier will break the windows to fall out. They will then just sink into the waters and disappear. When we get close to the bus, a boomer will start to swim towards us while the blob inside the bus spills out. A boomer is spawned from the spill of boomers as well, and something very unexpected happened. The last boomer in the bus will start bloating up just like as if he caught our boat. This one in particular will explode and completely disappear. The boomers are humanoid looking creatures. They take on the appearance of an overweight bloated person. Taking a closer look at the model, we can see a lot of cuts and gnashes throughout the body. The skin is most likely very delicate due to all the time spent in the water. The creature's body is large and disproportionate in some areas. The boomer is supposed to mimic a corpse that was forgotten in the waters. Now let's check out the version of this model where he grows giant boils to explode on our character. It is quite interesting to see the boils change to a reddish color, and the purple veins are shown quite prominently. It also looks like the belly grew much bigger, and it does look like the boomer can trigger these boil explosions on his body at will. But if it does trigger it, it will be the last thing it ever does. I suspect it is a sacrificial act so the rest of the boomers in his pack will be able to reap the rewards of the hunt. So the boomers in the reanimal game are unnerving creatures. They certainly are not a huge threat to us throughout the game, as they are easily taken care of by throwing a harpoon at it. But their individual threat level is made up for their ability to hunt in packs. This seems to be a very self-destructive creature, as once one catches their prey, they will explode in an attempt to hurt the prey or to disorient them long enough for the others to finish them off. Watching as the boils on the boomer's body grow and explode adds to the body horror that this game leans heavily into. But feel free to let me know if I missed anything or if you just want to share your thoughts on the creature as well. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you all later.